Lipton, and I am 45 years old. I learned about my cancer following an abnormal mammography, and I had been feeling fine prior to that. It was a complete shock. But I was originally told that it was a very small cancer, and then that I was at stage 1. And then I had surgery. I had a lumpectomy, and following that surgery, the pathology showed that I was actually stage 2. It was larger than they had originally thought. And I was about to start chemotherapy when my oncologist wanted me to have a CT scan to make sure that nothing had metastasized. And on March 31st, she called me up and told me that there were lesions all over my liver, and indeed, it had metastasized and I was stage 4. I was devastated. It was one of the 3 worst days of my life. She told me that I had no real hope and that I was going to die of breast cancer, and that all she could give me were things that were palliative, that wouldn't cure me. And I was devastated. The Angiogenesis Foundation gave me new hope by making me feel that it wasn't a death sentence that I was looking at necessarily. They made me feel that there were things that I could do that they could help me with, that there are things that can be done through angiogenesis. They helped me to bring information to my case, and that really empowered me. There were people who had actually overcome cancers with the help of angiogenesis and anti-angiogenesis inhibitors. And all the information, all the data that they had were really hopeful, and they gave me the feeling that this wasn't the end. And it was, I can't emphasize enough how much that helped me. When my doctor first told me that it was on my liver and that I had no hope, I really felt like I was going to die soon. And then I got data from them about people who had cancer, who had no hope, who have gone on to live normal lives. And it gave me hope that that could happen for me. When I started chemotherapy and my different anti-angiogenic supplements, my tumor marker was at 4,577. That was in April. By the end of August, having taken these supplements, done chemotherapy, and taken Avastin, my counts had gone from 4,577 down to 41. So I'm almost there. I actually do feel that being cancer-free is within my reach right now. I mean, if the last tumor marker was 41, I'm going to be finding out this Thursday what it is again. And I feel that it's now in my hands as opposed to being in some doctor who I don't know that well's hands. What my CT scans now show is that there's been no progression of the disease. The lesions on my liver have shrunk or gone away completely, and that's where I want to be. Hello, my name is Pamela Lipton. I have been living with metastatic breast cancer for 4.5 years. I was initially diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer in February 2005. A month later, I was informed it was probably stage 2. Then my oncologist called me to order to scan to make sure that the cancer hadn't spread. That certainly had never even occurred to me. I was stunned the cancer spread was even a possibility. I was still reeling from the initial diagnosis of breast cancer, and now my head was filled with thoughts of possible cancer spread. As it turned out, my cancer was not stage 1 as they first thought. It was not stage 2 as they later thought. Within 2 months of my diagnosis, my oncologist called me on the phone with the news that the cancer was all over my liver. That was an incredibly terrible phone call. Terrified, I asked how long I had, and she replied, "You'll definitely die of breast cancer." I hit rock bottom in terms of hope at that point. But then, the day after my metastatic diagnosis, I contacted Doctors Vincent and Will Lee. I had known them for many years prior to being diagnosed with cancer, and I had heard a lot about angiogenesis and its promise from them. I got in touch with them immediately, and it was then that my turnaround began. They educated me about angiogenesis inhibitors and recommended different anti-angiogenic supplements that I could take. I started to understand the nature of my disease better and the role that angiogenesis plays in it, and this empowered me, convincing me that I had treatment options that unavailable to women with breast mets just a few years earlier. I was put on chemotherapy by my oncologist, but I was also able to take advantage of Avastin, simply because I knew about it from them and I demanded to get it. Feeling and knowing that I had some options helped me to get my feet back on the ground again and fight against the cancer that had taken over my body. Eventually, I felt strong and knowledgeable enough to seek a second opinion, also recommended to me by the Angiogenesis Foundation. The second opinion oncologist gave me the confidence and support I needed to deal with the situation. I knew right away that this was the doctor for me. I loved her immediately. She put me on a cocktail of chemos, and luckily, I pretty much sailed through the treatment. After 10 months of chemotherapy and being on my anti-angiogenic supplements, my scan showed only scar tissue on my liver. The day I received those scan results was an amazing day for me. That was close to 4 years ago now. I understand the nature of this disease. I don't have to tell any of you that treatment stopped working, and I know that disease progresses. I know all that in my head. But when it actually happens to you, it's a shock. This, as we know, is the reality of metastatic breast cancer. Always having to be ready to deal with a new treatment and a new situation. But I do feel hope for the future, and for my future, and for the future of my sisters and brothers battling this devastating form of cancer. I feel hope because of angiogenesis, and because we all believe that you here today can do something. We're betting our lives on you, and we want to work in concert with you. Since my diagnosis, I've become very involved in metastatic breast cancer advocacy. I counsel other women with METs on a national breast cancer hotline. I'm very active with the Metastatic Breast Cancer Network, with whom I've been working with Congress to pass a resolution proclaiming today, October 13th, National Metastatic Breast Cancer Day, Awareness Day. Our goal is to increase awareness of metastatic breast cancer, which kills over 40,000 people a year in our country. We believe that increased awareness will lead to more research, which will lead to more clinical trials, which will ultimately lead to more treatments that we need so desperately to extend our lives. We want to participate with you in clinical trials. We want to work with you. We want to help you to get things done. One of the things that I like to say now is that my goal is to live to be 80 years old. I happen to be 49 right now. I can tell that you're all looking at me like I have rocks in my head, but it's what I want, and I will do anything to achieve it. I believe that angiogenesis inhibitors can help me do that, and I believe in you and your research and your painstaking work that will transform metastatic breast cancer from a fatal, incurable disease into a truly manageable and chronic one. Thank you so much for all that you do. We are all so grateful to you in my community. Thank you.